Welcome to No Room for Phonies,
Episode 84.
A conversation about change. The big quote is a Seth Godin quote. He says, "The easiest thing is to read. The second easiest thing is to respond, but the hardest thing is to initiate."
I like his ideas.
Yeah, he has a lot. And then I like this quote, "In a gentle way you can shake the world," by Mahatma Gandhi. So we spent a really incredible dinner with Brad McLean and Julie Stitt, and we talked about change and change management. And through this whole thing where we're having guests, we're committed to connecting to new people, to widen
in
our circle.
And just to get different ideas and outlooks and just to be introduced to new thoughts.
And I mean, I've known Brad and Julie for a long time because I was principal to their youngest son. But
I've known Julie in work capacities
Yeah.
since then.
Yeah, so Brad and Julie, they have two amazing sons, and they work diligently in their lives to encourage change and to support those around them to be kind of the best versions of themselves. So they're really interesting, fun people.
And we talked about in our conversation with them, we talked about the reality of making changes.
And decision making and a whole bunch more. So enjoy our conversation with Brad and Julie. So today we have Brad and Julie. I just have to say that I met Brad and Julie as parents at a school that shall remain nameless. But I really loved working with you, and I especially loved your son. He is a brilliant young boy, and he was a lot of fun to work with as a student. So that's how we met. And then you, Charles,
I met
has the privilege.
I met Julie at Niagara College when I was being onboarded for a faculty position.
Oh,
yeah,
that's when we met originally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure.
That's right.
So
and then you've met Brad before, but I'm just
that's
meeting
right.
Brad tonight.
Yeah, we had a few parent conferences together at a school that shall remain nameless. But I see you as a couple as always kind of cut it in your professions, and I don't know as much about your home life, but as cutting edge kind of change people, that you're always looking for kind of the best way to do things. And certainly involved in some form of change management, definitely for you in your role, Julie. So I just wanted to talk a little bit of the reality of change management. And we can all laugh because the dark reality of change management.
All in 20 minutes.
For me, change kind of goes from challenge to discomfort to heartache to innovation to solution to evolution, but never in a short, straight path.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to think about it, is that it's not always that straight path. And so often we start and then we learn a little bit, and then we redefine where we're heading. We learn a little bit more, we redefine where we're heading again. And it keeps moving, but it changes also along the way.
So I think that expectation is interesting, because if you have an expectation or a clear or concrete idea of where you're going, it's great to have that goal, but you're going to be constantly disappointed because circumstances are always in motion and will always upset the way you're going, and that's disappointment.
And also, you are going to be frustrated by the people along the way that don't exactly get your vision of anything. So it's kind of like how do you deal with, that was one of the things that I had to learn to do, is to deal with frustration management, because I don't suffer fools lightly.
Which made you an excellent person to deal with at that school that will remain nameless.
Yeah.
It was fantastic. It was a breath of fresh air.
But it's like, yeah, it's like, when do you know when to just quit something and say,
So I am the last person to ask, because I keep moving things ahead. I don't give up very easily, and I stay optimistic about those original ideas. And there are things that I have worked on literally for years.
This week, in fact.
This
You
week.
had a great example
Yeah,
this week.
there was something that happened at work that I have been working on for years, and slowly sharing the idea, planting the seeds, whispering in people's ears,
So
making
that they
the
think
case.
it's their idea.
Well,
Yeah.
partially, but also some of it was the organization wasn't maybe it wasn't ready,
Mhm.
maybe, or the idea wasn't the right idea at the time, and now it is the right idea. So sometimes it's just having the patience and having the optimism and the patience to say, I think if this is a good idea, it can happen, but it might not happen now.
Right.
so to keep that idea of keeping circling back to something and never kind of dropping it, but never really dropping it.
Yeah, and also being realistic, because sometimes my ideas aren't good ideas. Right? Sometimes
Very, very few. Like, let's be
I understand.
let's be clear here.
I
There's
identify
a very
with that.
small number of ideas are bad ideas.
I have great ideas most of the time.
and that realism about if the people that I trust and that I'm having those conversations with say, look, that's a stinker. that's just
That's
really,
not going down
that's
there.
not going down. That having those conversations and being able to put my ideas and my ego aside to be able to listen to that criticism and to take that on board, that's also a really important part of it. But with the ideas that are good, where people say, yeah, I think that is a good idea, but I don't know if it's going to work now, or
People aren't ready for it.
maybe
Right.
they're not ready.
And I think you've got such an amazing energy of being able to bring people on board to communicate that vision of what you see as something that's important. And this is something I remember from like probably the third time I met you or had seen you in action was at a meeting at
When we were
university.
students.
Yeah, when we were students, you got up in front of like this huge number of people and you just cut to the heart of the matter, and everybody was like, yeah, that's what we should do. You're like, she's awesome. I think we're gonna hang around with her for a little bit longer.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
that
But
you
that's-
guys
Because so it's-
remember that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that's it's a marvelous thing to be able to not just have that persistence of change, but being able to recruit others and to share in that vision and see the positive possibilities of the outcomes.
Yeah, because if you can't to be sure, if you can't convince anyone else, it's not going
It's
to
a bad
happen.
idea.
It's a bad idea.
It is a
Yeah.
bad
That's what
idea.
if
Well,
everyone's
because
like,
wait, change is part of is like the whole idea of collective impact, right? So if you're just like have felt that experience of kind of like, okay, I know this is right. I know this is the path, but these people are not like that
Getting
idea
on the
of
train.
being able to get people on the train that's a very, very, very big deal. And I know that some of that, like Charles came home after some Niagara Day or something, and he was like, Julie is just like, she's in blue and she's like, welcome and this is great. But that's, people kind of go, wow, like maybe there's got to be something there when you have that much enthusiasm and joy,
Mhm.
right? But that's tiring, isn't it? Or you don't find it tiring?
Yeah, there are parts of it that are tiring.
Yeah.
I think when it aligns, when either the change or the work that you're doing aligns with what you care about and it aligns with your values, it takes so much less energy,
Right.
and so it doesn't feel exhausting. And
Mhm.
if you're also allowed to feel joyful
Right.
at work, right? You're allowed
Mhm.
to actually enjoy it and say, this is something I care about and I can express that joy.
And the
That's also
environment
different.
that you're working in is obviously an environment that is looking for change.
Oh
Yeah.
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 Like
And
you would say
and
that.
I would say change is celebrated, and yeah, there's people that slow it down. Um,
Yeah, but
some out of wise counsel and caution, well, at least because my ideas are like usually way out there, and I need to tone it down,
Yeah.
bring me back to reality.
But I have to say though, we had been somewhere and he had to go to a meeting, so I just sat in the lounge at the at the big campus in Niagara on the Lake,
Mhm.
and I was sitting outside the door that they were meeting in, and they were clapping and whatever. And he came out and I said, "What are you clapping about?" "Oh,
I said,
just
we're
everybody's
celebrating
ideas."
ideas.
Just everybody's ideas. I said, I worked for like 40 years in an organization and no one clapped for anybody. I swear to you, no one clapped for anybody. And I just think, like,
Well, and we were just in a brainstorming session, and it was like the normal review of what a brainstorm is. No idea is a bad idea, but people were just kind of identifying their role and how they had got to that role. And all of a sudden, in our group, we realized 3/4 of them were international students that had gone through being student assistants and were now employed at the college.
That's huge.
So
Yeah.
we were just
Yeah.
celebrating how many international students were now part of our team. So,
That's
and it
phenomenal.
was just like,
That's worth cheering about.
but
Absolutely.
honestly,
but we
every
were also
other-
clapping for a lot of the ideas in the brainstorm.
It was just hilarious because I was just sitting outside reading, and then all of a sudden it would be like, "Yay!" I'd be like, "What are they doing in there?" But
I think
see,
she thought we were like in a Walmart Good Morning.
yeah,
show.
I thought there was some kind of training they were getting so that they were more enthusiastic. But and one thing I want to ask, just from your own either personal or work, do you have a process that you use for making decisions? Like, is there something that kind of happens? Is it more laid
T-chart.
out?
SWOT analysis.
Yeah.
Those sort of things.
I'm a person who needs to think it through, and I often do, especially with bigger decisions.
Mhm.
Probably do a lot more research than other people might. I think that's
In a
true.
good way.
Yeah, in a
Yeah.
good way.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
you do too.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
more information is helpful.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. It's sometimes to the detriment of actually making a decision. And I think we're both inclined that way. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we would never make big decisions without each other.
no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no, that's
No,
very
No,
true.
very much
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I don't think a process, in terms of a process, I don't think we have a formal
No.
process. And sometimes we use tools like, okay, we'll gather information, then think, okay, let's think pros and cons and think
Yeah.
that way.
Mhm.
But there's always a time where we step back and to reflect and take that time to
Yeah, so
to really, see how any particular decision or direction feels.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know
we
personally, I
kind of do a
that.
gut check.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
true.
because you have to live with it. So
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
gotta,
Yeah. And sometimes it's not the thing that all the information is saying,
yeah,
right? Sometimes
No.
it is that gut check says, yeah, that's, even if that's what all the information is saying, that's not going to be the right answer.
Yeah, no. And I mean, for us, like you referred to this before, but you have like almost like a moral compass or a part of you that when things feel right, they feel right.
Yeah.
And when you've lived with somebody a long time and you continually, like, think you're probably like us. We talk a lot about stuff. Like when I hear about couples and they say, well, we never talked about that. And I'm thinking, you never talked about it. We talked about it for 7 hours. Like, how could you not talk about it?
That's all we do.
And that's all we do is talk about it.
When we're out together and she goes on her phone and then I go on my phone and I'm like, all of a sudden 2-3 minutes later, I'm like, we better turn our phone off. Let's just talk.
Yeah. Because but I mean, when it comes to like serious stuff that we're trying to figure out or whatever, it's big, long discussions.
Right.
And I thought about it this, and I've read this, and I've done this, or I talked to this person. It's not a like.
Okay. So do you have a typical process or something you go through? Do you...
I listen to her.
Okay.
I'm a
Just kidding.
very T-chart kind of a person.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Like, okay, if the list
Pros and
down here
cons.
gets longer,
Yeah.
then
No, and I would check my gut first.
Okay.
Then I would be doing the diplomacy check.
Ah.
Who's this going to impact? How is it going to
Right.
impact them?
how are they going to feel?
How are they going to
Whereas
feel?
I'm
How are they going to react? Then we do that for our decisions as well, as long if there's a third party involved. Then,
yeah. And I mean, for me, I'm always like, okay, what's like, he's an idealist and
Okay.
I'm a reality.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, what's this going to mean for us? How's this going to play out? These are the practical things that are good about this.
Right.
This is the list of bad has gone long, long, long.
And then sometimes I'm like, okay, we're at the cliff. Let's just jump.
yeah,
That's right.
And sometimes you do have to just jump
and see.
right?
Yeah.
Well, that for
Well,
us,
we feel mostly good about it, so let's go.
yeah. So
Yeah.
let's go for it. But yeah, no.
And do you find that is there tension or friction some way, or is there kind of a mutual appreciation for that for different
The
for very
tension
different
comes
processes?
because I get to a conclusion very quickly,
Ah.
and he
I need
needs
time.
more time.
More time.
Decision
So,
quickly.
decision. We're not doing that. That's crazy. Oh, just a minute.
Yeah.
I would like to have like a
Oh yeah,
chance
one
to
of
consider.
our first blow ups that I actually dropped the F-bomb is
Yeah.
I said to her, "Would you effing let me arrive at the same conclusion you've arrived at, but give me 20 minutes to get there?"
So
Well put.
right. So because and I think it's also the nature of the kind of job that I had, right? Like
Mhm.
a lot of times I had to just like go, okay, okay, this is what I got to do because
Right.
this is going to have the best impact, the best possible impact that I can see at the moment.
Right. So it
Right?
was decisiveness. I'm assuming decisiveness was really rewarded for that because you've got, people at your door, things you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to like
Yeah, you
come
had
down
to
one way
do
or
that.
another right
And
away.
you know, which is funny, when I was a principal, my biggest question that I always asked myself before anything happened was, well, how's this going to play out in the newspaper when it gets reported, right?
Yeah.
Because
Like
Yeah.
you're
and that has got to
Like, when
be
you're-
right.
yeah.
Was when I first got my first sort of big promotion, and I was working at a university at West. My boss, who became a mentor, said, "The thing that you have to understand is that when you're making big decisions, you want to make sure that you're going to be comfortable seeing them on the front of the Vancouver
Yeah.
Sun." And he said, it's never going to be on the front of the Vancouver Sun if you think that through
Yeah.
before
Oh,
you make the
okay.
decision. But
Yeah.
he said, if you always have that lens, are you going to feel comfortable having to defend this in the
Yeah.
newspaper? And I was very young at the time and thought, oh, I really don't know that I want to be thinking that way. But it was really, really good advice.
Yeah.
That especially when you work in the public sector,
Very much so.
always thinking about, am I doing the right thing with public money and in the best interests of the public?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, for me, it's always about whether, some kid is going to be harmed or, and if that would happen, like, how do I defend what happened?
Mhm.
And one of the most interesting things I had was there was a car accident with a carload of high school students going to a co-op on the front lawn of the school. And I was called out there because I was the principal there, right? And there were like news people gathering and kids lying, and the co-op teacher was like, everybody's fine, get in the car, we're going. And I'm like, no, because all I need, I said everybody's going to the hospital to get checked out, because we're responsible for these kids, and I'm the person on site here who's going to get quoted in the paper. So no, everyone's going to the hospital. So
and keeping in mind, like, what is in the best interest of that child?
yes,
those
or their
parents,
parent. What's
kids,
their
their
parent?
their
What would I
friends, their
want?
family.
What would I
Yeah.
want somebody to do for my kid?
Mhm.
Which is a big thing. But yeah, so it's very interesting for me to think that the changes that we make in our lives and sometimes we won't even see the impact of them. And so, that is kind of a mindset that you have to develop, right? That you're just working towards what you feel is the next best thing, rather than trying to sort of figure out, well, is this, what's this going to look like? Because these little pieces that I put in place may not materialize till I'm out of the picture.
Well, although the one time you were just walking down Niagara Street here, and an adult in his 30s said, "Mrs. Voss."
I love that.
He remembered you from quite a while ago.
Yeah, it was like before Zachary was born.
But
so.
it was the impact that you had on
Yeah,
his life.
so it's
right?
just so that's that's the beauty of change. So yeah, so I just as we get kind of get to the close of it, is there like something that you think of as something that you really implemented that you're sort of the most proud of or the most excited about ever in your life? No.
I think I go back to raising 2 kids.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of both of them, and the changes that they make in their lives and with their friends, and when I see them living in a way that is so aligned with their values, and that they're both really terrific people, and I
They
think
are, and very authentic as well. Like they're
Yeah.
authentic to themselves, and it's something that I think we trust them in the world.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
and I
True.
think that is it's nice. It's nice.
And isn't that the best part
Yeah.
of like, because it's you're always working to try to make sure that everything you do in your life has that positive impact for your kids, right? And now we're at the sort of the other end of it, where we're kind of seeing them really come out in the world and find their way, and
But it's also exciting when they come and express, well, Dad, this is my value, different than your value.
yes.
But I know I have the freedom to have a new value.
yeah.
And then
Yeah.
then explaining it to me. And I mean, a couple of things in high school, when they were in high school, they changed my point of view about a lot of things. And I just recognized that, yeah, it's time to to listen. Gave them the skills to weed things out, think things through, and come up with another kind of moral compass direction. And it was really, really important to see that in them.
Yeah. And I think it's just always interesting, even for us who have had like, fairly successful careers and whatever, that life really does in the end come down to the impact that you have on your own kids and your own family. Like that really is where it's all kind of at.
Yeah, and seeing them manage the challenges,
Yeah.
and manage that as well as
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
You know, and-
And from small things to large. Like I think of
Mhm.
our youngest starting high school and then becoming a complete proponent of taking the bus, and like
Yeah.
of all of his friends, like he's like, no, I'm gonna take the bus, it's gonna be great, like, and just from going from a kid who wouldn't necessarily have that immediate, I don't want to say bravery because that's not quite the right word,
No,
but just
I
that comfort, I guess
yeah,
is a better word
yeah.
to say it, is that immediate comfort to just walk out of his school and get on a bus and head downtown, to being the kid who will walk out of school, get on a bus and head downtown and think, where am I going to go next? I could go anywhere, and then just go there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to make it to, another city away. It's fine.
Yeah. No, it's
Yeah, and it's great to see, like, from the small things to
yeah.
the large things, to see
Well,
our
then
older
you
son
think,
really
okay,
navigating
I've
his way through.
planted confidence and courage in my kids, right? Because this world requires us to have courage, right? In all things.
And to manage a lot of those changes, coming back to the original question, right?
Yeah.
Helping them to manage those changes. And it's not to take away from the impacts at work and all of the things that we've done there, but it's when I think about what are the two biggest changes we've been involved in.
Those are pretty big changes.
They're
It's
big,
the
well,
peak-
they're
and they're very tall.
they're very tall.
Yeah,
They're very big
ours
changes.
are too. We have very tall changes in our lives. Yeah, no, it's, and I remember the first time that Sebastian had a job, like after college, where he was doing when he went out to do the Canada Games in Edmonton, and he was gone for like 20 days doing the Canada Games, and I was thinking, and then I thought, this is what he needs to do. And Zachary makes a lot of big decisions in his job, and so somehow we've empowered them, right, to be the people that they're meant to be. And that's the biggest thing you can do in your life, I think, right? Yeah. All right, so we have 2 drop questions that we do for everybody. You ready? They're hard. No, they're not hard.
Okay.
The first one is, what is your pet peeve?
Are you going to talk about people putting dishes incorrectly in the dishwasher?
There is very much a correct way.
That's perfect. That's fine. It's mine too. Go ahead. Because they don't wash properly.
No, you have to make sure you maximize the
The
things that you
space.
can
It
get in the
drives
space
me
in there.
crazy when I go in there and there's 75 more dishes will fit in here.
Exactly.
Yes.
Very
Okay,
much so.
that's very
In
good.
every couple, in loading the dishwasher, I read this somewhere. One person is the bridge architect. Yeah. The other person is a ferret on some kind of drug.
Yeah.
Bridge
So,
architect.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So your pet peeve. Do you have a pet peeve?
I do have a pet peeve, and that is people who do not know how to navigate a 4-way stop.
That's, yes.
And there's
It's
a lot
true.
of them.
You're rolling down your window
here
going,
on the
go
college.
already.
That's right.
Are you
Well, there's
serious?
a lot
Here
around
in
the
Niagara,
college.
it is an impasse of the polite. No, you go ahead. It is not his go. It is not
There
his
is an
go.
order.
There is an order.
There are
We do not
rules.
need 4 people all saying, no, you, please, you. Yeah.
Okay, that's
Navigating
good.
a
And then
4-way
our
stop.
final question is, what is your favorite way to spend a day?
I can think back to a fantastic day we had.
We were talking about that day not that long ago.
Yeah, fantastic day, and I couldn't think of a better way to spend a day.
Yeah, it's
Which
true.
was the 4 of us together. We were in New York City, and it was just a fantastic day.
It was
So
a
it was
fantastic day. We
exploring the city,
We started.
eating great food, but
Yeah.
And unplanned? Was it like,
no, well,
Uh,
we had stops that were planned because at the end of the day we were going to see Hamilton. So
Okay, so you were
we
doing-
knew we were doing.
you had a
that.
goal?
We had a goal at the end, and we had a couple of things that we wanted to do in between. But there were lots of things that just happened that were
Yeah.
great.
we went to the Fashion Institute of Technology to see an
oh,
exhibit in the morning, and I always
Awesome.
drag everybody to costume exhibits, and
Right.
now they enjoy them.
awesome.
Yes.
Right.
But I've been taking, well, myself, but then once the boys were born,
Yeah.
taking them to costume exhibits basically everywhere we've been, and we got the days wrong, and so the exhibit that we wanted to see wasn't actually opening until the following day. And when we arrived, the one of the people who was curator on the exhibit, quite a famous fashion personality, a guy named Andre Leon Talley, who had been a Vogue editor, was there sort of holding court with a couple of reporters.
Charles would have really liked to be at that.
And he was there and no one else was in the lobby.
Yeah, so we just
kind of waited until he was done, and then we met him and had a chance to sort of talk to him for a minute. And he asked us what we were doing in New York and later. And the funniest thing he said was, we told him we were going to Hamilton, and he was like, "You shouldn't go to Hamilton. You should
go to the Rockettes.
You-
Go to see the Rockettes.
Their legs are fabulous."
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, that
And
sounds
so
like a good day.
It was a good day, and
It
then
was
we
a really
just
good day.
things that we everybody had a bit of something. Where I think we went to a math museum that
We
day,
did?
and Max
Wow.
was in his element.
Yeah,
and we
he
had
would be.
fantastic food at Italy and
Yeah. And then we went to Shake Shack for
Shake
dinner
Shack for dinner
before we went to see
Yeah.
Hamilton. And Spence was just so, at that point in time, he knew all the words he could.
Oh,
and
okay.
he has been part of choirs and has been singing his whole life. So
Right.
that was a pretty special thing and especially to see it in New York. And it was a pretty amazing day. And the four of us together and having fun all day.
Yes.
And in a city where we were able to do so many things in one day. Like when we think back, like we both, when you asked that question, it was like, oh, I know the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it
That's
was just this
great.
incredible, like, mushing together of all of these things into sort of 16, 17 hours in that
Awesome.
particular day.
That's very
That'd be
cool.
amazing.
Well, this has been great. Thank you very
you.
much
Thank you.
for
Mhm.
the conversation. We've actually enjoyed a great evening together, so I hope we can do it again sometime without mics.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you very much.
Yes,
Yeah, it's
and
great.
thanks for the wonderful conversation and
Yeah.
terrific dinner. Thank
Great.
you both.
Thank you.
All right. Good night.
Thanks for listening to No Room for Phonies, a conversation about change with Brad and Julie.
And at the end of the month, we'll have our
Recap.
reflection,
conversation.
discussion, what we learned.
Yeah, and then in April, just as a little preview, we had an amazing conversation with Dr. Carrie Rongitz in her CareStream.
More about that later.
More about that later. So April 15th will be that one. So thanks for listening to No Room for Phonies,
Good.
episode
84. Good night.